Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
I'm Grace Allison, your host for Indie Beacon Radio. We have with us, all the way from down under Australia, Deb Lang. Deb is an author, advisor, and master of the fine art of designing whole body learning experiences to evoke human potential. Deb thinks that living in our heads in a world of abstract ideas as if we were like technology leaves us humans empty, stressed, and unfulfilled. Her book, Trust Your Senses, Embodiment, Wisdom for the Modern Age. Welcome, Deb, and please tell us, where did you get the idea for this book?
Hi, Grace, and thank you very much for having me on Indie Beacon. Where did I get the idea? Well, it was from my life experiences. I had, a youth where I think I was pretty well connected with my whole self, spent a lot of time in nature and with horses. And as a young adult, I went on a path that was quite successful, but then in midlife, it seemed like I had a big bump, as many of us do. And it was like I sort of really disconnected from myself and got sidetracked and started doing things that weren't really for my highest good, weren't really me living my potential. And I was really overriding what my body was telling me and just listening to my head, listening to the voices of what other people wanted, thinking about things rather than really sensing and feeling and paying attention to them. So I had a little bit of a deep dive under in midlife. And then as I came out and reconciled things, made sense of things, that's where the book emerged. So it's actually from my lived experience. And then, as we know, when we teach something to other people, we learn it even deeper. And so I did start having people come to me wanting to know, well, okay, you went through this. I'm going through something similar. Can you help me? And so there's a lot of lessons that I learned from the work that I did coaching, or I'm still doing coaching clients, in the book themselves. So it's not just my experience, it's my the experiences and lessons that the people that work with me.
Well, I want to ask you, the book says trust your senses. Mm-hmm. So what do you mean by trust your senses?
Okay, well, I think when we're a little kid, we really do sort of trust ourselves, but we start being told what to do in life. And instead of just trusting our own innate choices of what's good for us, we start making decisions and doing things based on what everybody else in the world's telling us. And we're looking outwards for the answers. And I'm not saying we give that up, because there is information out there. But it is about checking in our whole body, like connecting what we're thinking with what we're feeling, what we're sensing, what we're intuiting, as if there's another language. Well, I imagine that words are a language, images are a language, our feelings are a language, even our sense of balance is a language. We have a whole multitude of senses that we've kind of been ignoring because we're so focused on the rational and logic and reason, and we've got so tangled up with our words as if that's our only form of communication. We've forgotten that there's a whole body of knowledge in our body, within ourselves, that's also speaking to us to help us, guide us for choices that are creating well-being, for choices that create joy, wonder, curiosity. So our senses are not just the five senses that we've come to all think about as being sight and taste and touch.
Well, how does, we're living in a world of social media. I mean, that is the biggest distraction of our time. I mean, how do you get people away from that, from social media, to where they're so involved? And I know There's so many people talking about how depressed they are, how disconnected they feel from the world, that how do you do that? How do you get back to that sense of yourself?
Yeah, well, to begin with, it's a choice. And like, if people are spending a lot of time on social media, and I do too. I mean, I've got that app that tells me how many hours a day I'm spending on the internet. And sometimes I look at it and I go, oh my God, I need to get out with my feet on the earth, under a tree. Thank heavens I've got a beautiful little backyard with fruit trees, some lawns, some herbs. I spend a lot of time out there. But it is a choice to go, okay, is what I'm doing creating a sense of well-being? Or is it actually creating numbness or tension or a blockage? And if it is, what's an alternative? What else can I do? What else can I discover that in fact is more in alignment with creating well-being than staying stuck doing the same old thing, creating the same old blankness or numbness or depression? So I in my book, it's all very much about a discovery, like being like a little kid again, discovering the world as if with new eyes again, as if we don't know very much and there's so much else to find out and explore. So there's a lot of exercises in my book to do and a lot of images to kind of evoke that kind of playfulness again. And that, if I said it doesn't have to be all hard work, even though sometimes it is, but it could also be playful and being inquisitive and curious and just being open that there's just so much more to learn. There are other ways. Right?
So when you were discovering this process for yourself, what gave you the idea that you were onto something?
I think when I realized how I was not listening to my body, when I was making a choice where I was in a relationship that really wasn't healthy for me, and I was doing a whole lot of things that weren't bringing me fulfillment or happiness, doing them thinking they were loving or that I would be loved, and then ending up, retreating and basically being depressed and being in bed a lot, not letting other people know that I was depressed, covering up how I was really feeling. And it was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Is this really? Is this my life? Is this good for me? I mean, before that period of life, I was very successful in life. I was out in the world. I was making good choices. Then I had this period where it's like I gave all that up. I gave everything up and I was making choices that weren't good for me. And it was this realization that, hang on a minute, I don't have to choose to be, it is a choice. I don't have to be choosing things that are creating depression or despair. And it's like I did go off to see lots of psychologists and things. And it was almost like being trapped in it, like as if I needed all this help to fix something up. But in fact, I didn't have to fix anything up. I just had to make different choices. I had to listen to my body about what my body was feeling when I was feeling enlivened and joyful and free versus when I was feeling controlled, intimidated, demeaned. So I just had to make small choices to listen in.
So it sounds like you had to really create boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries were a big thing. A big thing. I think too, I don't really want to get into gender, but I think often females sort of take all the responsibility on, like, oh, what am I doing, that's creating this? I've got to fix myself up so this will be better, or whatever, And in fact, as I said, I didn't have to fix myself up. I didn't have to fix this other person up. This other person is living their life. And if that's the way they wanted to live their life, that's fine. I don't need to try to change them. And I don't need to try to change myself either. I just need to do things for myself that when I'm choosing them, in every moment of my day when I'm making those choices, it's actually creating wellness.
Yeah, so the boundaries really were important for you. And how did the other person take it when you started to make those boundaries?
Well, I created a very big boundary. It was a complete walking away. But for a while, it was also, I did get trapped into, things would be better, like listening to false promises of change. And so going back to see how things would be different. So it took about 3 big tries, before I really knew that the relationship wasn't a healthy one for me, and that I'm my life, I don't need to see psychologists. I don't need to fix myself up anymore. Like, I don't have that situation in my life anymore that's actually creating those sorts of problems. And the choices I make are making me feel alive, confident, nourished, happy. It's not to say I don't feel sad. It's not to say I don't have doubts. It's not to say it's lifelong, isn't it? We have all those.
Yes, it is. It really is.
Yeah. But my life is totally transformed through recognizing that the choices I were making did lead me to that state, which were choices more in my head and completely not listening to my body was screaming out, this isn't a good choice.
Yeah.
This isn't right for you.
Yeah.
And I was completely overriding it. Nobody, I know better than you.
Yeah, and it really does win. The body wins because it will come up with, for me in my process of change and discovery, comes through illness, it comes through accidents, it comes through when you make a bad choice, just things fall apart.
They do, absolutely. And it'll keep on knocking until you finally listen, and things will get worse and worse and worse until you finally listen and go, okay, there's something going on here. I need to do something different.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Don't blame anybody else. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also the lesson that comes with that. So it's not an againstness toward the other person, but rather, what did I learn about myself that gave me back who I am, so that I feel ready. Okay, now we are going to take a break. Let our sponsors have a few minutes to tell our audience of what they have to offer, and we'll be back in just a moment.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to parent your parents? You have to laugh to keep from crying How to Parent Your Parents is a must-read book full of antidotes and practical advice to help parenting your parents. Author Charlotte Kenyon provides insights to help prepare anyone facing the challenges of caring for elderly parents. Check out our website at www.howtoparentyourparents.net.
Indie Lecture is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielector.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielector.store.
My Dream America, written by Helen Monday. A story of hopes and dreams and struggles and strengths of a young girl who wanted to come to America at age 13, came to America at age 21 with a suitcase and a guitar, a ticket for a year and a visa for 3 months, became a United States citizen at age 28. My Dream America can be purchased at Barnes & Nobles and Amazon, written by Helen Monday.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
This is Grace Allison. I'm back with Deb Lang with her book, Trust Your Senses. Now, Deb, we want people to find you. So if you wouldn't mind, would you share with us where people can find you on Twitter, social media, and your website, please?
Great. Yes. Well, I've got a website. It's just my name, deblang.com. So, and I probably speak a little bit faster than you guys down here. So it's deblang.com, which is just my name. That's the website. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. Unfortunately, my name is also Deborah, so I am Deborah Lang on Twitter. And I'm also on Facebook with the book Trust Your Senses. So I am on all those kinds of social medias, Instagram as well. So I'm there and love to connect with anybody who is interested in reconnecting with themselves to learn some lessons, to create a better pathway for themselves.
Wonderful. And I want to let people know how to spell Deb. It's Deblange. So if you're looking for Deb, it's deblang.com, and also on Twitter and Facebook. Is that right?
Yeah. And actually, I did forget. I'm in Australia. It's deblang.com.au.
Oh, there you go. Yes, we need to have that .au at the end of .com. And I see that you've gotten some great reviews here. Bob Dick, a professor, says this book is a timely gift, I believe, very relevant to the world we currently inhabit, and even more relevant to the future world I think we face. So Deb, as you have the book with you, would you like to share a little bit of it with us?
Sure. Or even, look, the book is really, the first third is about a bit of my story, other people's stories, and why I came to the book. But the second and third part is really all exercises, and that you can journal, that you can get out and do yourself. So for a start, would you like to do an exercise?
Oh, I would love to. Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, cool. Now I know that we're probably similar age. You've done a lot of work too, but I think we have lessons. I mean, I know I was with my mother when she passed over. She had a deep life lesson almost hours before she died. So we can learn forever. But what I found with the people that I work with, it's often when we look back and we go, okay, what keeps on occurring that I go, oh, that always happens when I do that, or that person always triggers me into not being who I really want to be. There's something that's kind of recurring. So I'm sure you've probably cleared and reconciled lots of things in your life, but is there anything that kind of you're still pondering on? What's a recurring thing that you wish never happened, or wouldn't keep happening in your life?
Okay, that's a very good question. And so if I was to make that from a mental mental thought, I would say, well, relationships often are a challenge for me. Okay, that would be my mental response. Mm-hmm. But you want me to talk about what I'm feeling. Is that right?
Yeah, well, what I'd really invite you to do, because even sitting, okay, so we are in our heads right now, but just to even start connecting what you're thinking with all the intelligence in your body. I mean, you can just wiggle around so you can actually feel your bottom on the chair, your thighs on the chair, put your feet on the ground and really feel your feet resting on the floor. And then just take a couple of breaths. Yeah, great. Sink. Yeah, it's great when you breathe because you sink your shoulders and you really sink into your wholeness, all of the intelligence in your whole body. And often, yes, we do close our eyes. But if I just asked you for a moment to even just say, if you're doing a bit of a body scan, which is kind of like scanning from the top of your head, down the back of your neck and down your body to where your buttocks are and down your thighs and to your feet. And if there's some place that you feel like resting perhaps, or just having a little feel like, oh, I feel like exploring there for the moment. Oh, you know, there might be a little tingling sensation or tension or something going on in your body somewhere. You might feel something, you might see an image, you know, a taste may arise even in your mouth, or a smell might come if you start seeing an image. But just sort of tapping into all of our senses, which are an intelligence. What now springs to mind? And you may share an image, you may share some kind of feeling or something that's gone on. So
it's like a I don't know. It's kind of like you know, it's just not again. You know, it's like
relationships, not
yeah, that kind of love. It's like wow. Another facet, another. How do I get here again?
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting, isn't it? So when even just that, when you're in your head, you just said, okay, it's relationship challenges. But now when you're in your body, you're actually feeling the heaviness of it.
Right. Yeah.
Which is kind of like when you're just in your head, it's like that's present, but we've ignored it. But now you've immediately gone to there's heaviness about that.
Right. Yeah.
So we could, if we were working together, we could go into that heaviness to find out what that heaviness, if there's wisdom, if the heaviness wants to speak in its own language to you about some kind of insight. And it may be about what I call exforming that heaviness. Now, here we are, we're talking, you're an author, I'm an author, we're sharing information. But one of the big lessons I learned was what I call exforming as well as informing. And it's, I mean, the Buddhist, but sort of the emptying. How do we empty and clear so that we can, in fact, create the new? And that heaviness may need to be exformed. So, in fact, you're feeling lighter about the next relationship challenge, or in fact, that you come to that next relationship challenge without that heaviness, and in fact, find a different way, because the heaviness isn't a part of you anymore. So it's not actually dealing with it mentally or just mentally, it's also dealing with the feeling in your body. So even right now with that heaviness, I mean, you can shake it out. I mean, I know that in a moment here, but you can literally, yes, you can. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, do this. I mean, animals, when they are traumatized and then the danger's gone, they will then shake. They literally shake out. We are animals, but we've been so civilized that we don't sort of do those things because we kind of contain ourselves. So even that, just to sort of shake ourselves, and but if you just went back and you just sort of focus back in on where that heaviness might be, I mean, is there an image there? Is there a word? Is there an insight from that heaviness, even right now?
It just wants to be there.
Mm-hmm.
It just wants me to be with it. I can it just wants to be there. Doesn't.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
And that's another very big part of this work, is that we often do have these hidden feelings, whether it's fear or it's a heaviness or a tension, and we're not even aware of it. But then when we are aware of it, it's like, oh, shut the door, cover that up, don't want to know it's there. But in fact, it does. I mean, that's the message, isn't it? Be with me. That's what it's saying.
And it's also about being honest.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And so my suggestion here and now is like to spend time with that heaviness, get to know it, you know, and it doesn't have to be intellectualized. It can just be the feeling of it. It can be the feeling of it when you go walking. It can be the feeling of it when you're sitting. That it is there, and perhaps there is something over time, as you communicate with this part of yourself, that there will be eventually, like another freeing up,
Mhm.
another resolution or reconciliation, and then, leading to new insights and new ways. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're coming to an end to this part of Texas Authors. And so we will be back in just a minute and be wrapping up with Deb Lang with Trust Your Senses.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Love to read? Love to meet authors in person? Then check out bookfestival.network to find a book festival in your region of Texas. We are adding book festival events throughout the year, so sign up to get notices and even a coupon towards purchase of a Texas author's book. Sign up at bookfestival.network.
The Holy Spirit is gifting our children and grandchildren, and they are naturally able to show God's power to the world. Amazon bestseller Anne Lynn Noble and her granddaughter Carlisle capture insights and learnings of growing spiritually through the pages of Glow and Grow in the Grace of God. This inspirational novel provides perspectives on biblical truth from a young believer and her grandmother exploring spirituality.
Welcome.
Thank you. This is Grace Allison, and I am with Deb Lang, and this is the copy of her book, Trust Your Senses. And Deb is coming with us, actually is from Australia, and we have a live broadcast with Deb from Australia. So welcome back, Deb. And so we've just gone through this process with me, and I assume that there's something in your book that would help me with whatever it was that I'm experiencing at this time. Is that right?
Yeah. The book has got the second and third section is like a journal. In fact, you can write in the book. There's a whole lot of sections where you can write in it like a journal, and it invites you to use a whole lot of different mediums. So it invites you to, yes, you can do stream of consciousness writing, or you can X-form, through movement. It invites you to, it may be what I call sort of move, talk in terms of playing around with what's coming out of your body. It invites you to be with those feelings, like there's stories there of a woman who felt that if she had a lot of sadness, and she felt if she cried, she would cry and never be able to stop. And so the book shares a way, well, I created a safe space with her, and for other people too, to create a safe space, and so that she could cry. And in fact, she found that she did stop, and of course felt lighter, but it actually meant that was an opening to be with other feelings as well. And there's a story in here of someone else who was very irritable, but rather than overriding that irritation, she got to be with that irritation. And in fact, she realized that the irritation was her constantly giving herself up to other people, and then feeling irritated about her decisions, and then of course blaming them for not having enough time for herself. But rather than once again processing it just mentally, it was actually going into the body, into her irritation. And then when she started making choices more for herself, not being selfish, but when she needed to do things for herself, the irritation wasn't there. She felt lighter and happier, and so could then, of course, make other choices for other people. But yes, there are a lot of exercises in the book. I actually have a whole kind of a map, an explorer's map, a navigation map, using there's actually a multitude of senses that the neuroscientists have now discovered, but I just use a core 12 senses, almost like a clock and a calendar, as guide touchstones to open up to new intelligence.
Now, I understand you also do personal coaching. Is that right?
I do one-on-one. I also do have a course that people can purchase and do the work online. I've got videos on there, guidebooks that they can download.
And they can go to deblang.com.au. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. And then find a link and then download or purchase an online course to do it themselves. That's right. Yep.
Very good. And they can also find you on Twitter and Facebook as well?
Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Yep. In fact, Trust Your Senses or Deb Lang. I'm there. Really welcome people to join the conversation with me, because I think there is a opening up in the world to all of this. I mean, obviously you've opened up to all sorts of wisdom through other modalities. And I think we've got so much more to learn, so that the more we can share and discover together, the more we can, all share in these other ways beyond just what we've been used to or taught in school, to grow our wisdom as we age and age well and create our well-being.
It sounds a very loving, supportive process for people. And I want to thank you for being with us on the Indie Beacon Lector Program and Texas Authors. And we wish you very good luck with your book, Trust Your Senses. And we look forward to your success.
Thank you, Grace. It's been wonderful to speak with you. And I really appreciate Indie Beacon for having me on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.